Aryna Sabalenka, that's her name. I'm bringing her up because even though she was the #1 player in the world, I don't think she should be that way now, not after this loss. It should be you. But I'm asking, what is her problem? Somebody got to ask this question. She came across as a very sore loser after she lost to you.
It's well known that Stephen A. Smith doesn't hold back. And Aryna Sabalenka was his aim this time. Sabalenka didn't simply lose the match following Coco Gauff's remarkable comeback at the French Open. After losing to a 21-year-old who carried herself like a pro, she lost her cool, and now Stephen A. has called her out for lacking class. I would like to know if Sabalenka was being disrespectful or just emotional.
What is up with her, and how much of a motivation was it that you were going up against her as opposed to just being in a title match?
Yeah, honestly, I wanted to play the best player in the world, and with the results and the rankings, she proved that she's the best player in the world. And obviously, maybe it might be different after yesterday, but yeah, I think for me, I wanted that matchup. I didn't want an excuse, especially I feel like people always try to make excuses as to why I win. So I was like, I want to play and give people, like, I played the best player in the world and I can beat her. And I did it in US Open. She was ranked #2, finished that #1. And yeah, the comments yesterday, or after the match.
It was windy. She blamed the wind.
Those comments I was a little bit surprised by them. But like at the end of the day, I mean, what happened. I won because I earned that win. And we both had to play in the win. We both had to deal with those conditions. I didn't feel great on the court at all. I went down 4-1. I thought I was playing the worst tennis of the tournament. But I think the difference was I was able to recognize that and find a different way to try to win that match.
Coco Gauff's most recent victory wasn't just another memorable tennis moment. It served as a reminder of why she is the sport's future. Despite being behind 4-1 against the top player in the world, she managed to turn the match into a dramatic win. In addition to taking home the trophy, she was creating history by being the first American woman to win the French Open since Serena Williams in 2015.
Yeah, honestly, guys, this one hurts so much, especially after such a tough 2 weeks playing great tennis and in these terrible conditions. Show such terrible tennis in the final. That's really hurt, but it's okay. Anyway, Coco, congrats in these tough conditions. You were a better player than me.
However, Aryna Sabalenka's post-match remarks left fans scratching their heads rather than applauding the young champion. She blamed the weather, highlighted the wind, and even said she was overly sentimental. Apart from acknowledging that Coco outperformed her.
Do you think there was a momentum shift in the first set because you started the match really well? You led 4-1. What happened at 4-1? Do you think that Coco got better or the conditions got tougher?
Yeah, I think it was more windy and got more windy, and also I think I was over emotional, and I think today I didn't really handle myself quite well mentally, I would say. So basically that's it.
It sounded like just an excuse. Fans of tennis are aware that both players must contend with the same pressure, wind, and surface. The way you handle it is the only true difference. And Coco handled it like a seasoned professional, calm, steady, and self-assured. Sabalenka, on the other hand, sounded as though she was attempting to keep her dignity intact rather than acknowledge that she had been defeated.
I think today I didn't really handle myself quite well mentally, I would say. So basically that's it. I was just making unforced errors. Like, I don't know, I have to check the statistics. I think she won the match not because she played incredible, just because I made all of those mistakes from, like, if you look from the outside, kind of like from an easy ball.
That's precisely the kind of thing that irritates Stephen A. He almost tore Sabalenka apart for not giving credit where credit was needed during his post-match comments. He emphasized how absurd it sounded for the world's top player to attribute his lack of skill to the weather. His response resonated with people because it confirmed their pre-existing thoughts. Sabalenka appeared less like a champion and more like someone who was allergic to responsibility as a result of her remarks. And that's a horrible look when you've built your brand around being the greatest. In contrast, Coco's performance was very different. She maintained her composure, regrouped in between sets, and returned to play more intelligent tennis. What sets champions apart from everyone else is their ability to adapt and find new methods to win when things aren't going your way. Stephen A. made the distinction very evident. While one player grumbled, the other adjusted. One took charge of it, while the other blamed the surroundings. There has never been a clearer contrast. Even worse, Sabalenka has previously found it difficult to cope with losing to Gauff. When Coco defeated her in the US Open final in 2023, their rivalry began. At the time, Sabalenka at least accepted loss with some dignity. She seemed to move on after congratulating Coco and grinning for the cameras. However, that professionalism vanished in 2025 with yet another defeat on one of the world's largest stages. It seems as though the annoyance has finally exploded. The idea that this young player, who was 10 years younger, had her number twice on the grandest platform was intolerable to her. Stephen A. emphasized the point by calling her response embarrassing for someone who considers herself the best. You set the standard for the sport when you are at the top. Instead of making excuses, you should be calm. This is when things start to get interesting. Coco Gauff did not even retaliate. She had the option of openly clapping back or making fun of them online, but she chose not to. Rather, she chose to take the high road, only admitting that both players had to deal with the same circumstances and that she deserved to win. Opponents are driven insane by that kind of subdued confidence, which is likely what made Sabalina's defeat even more painful.
She's probably emotional about it, so I'm not going to take it with too much anything. And I do hope people give her a little bit of...
Fans saw the difference right away. Coco handled winning with poise. Sabalenka was resentful at his defeat. That was all it took for the internet to erupt with comments applauding Coco's maturity and labeling Sabalenka a disgruntled loser. Media sites covering sports also stepped in. Some referred to Sabalenka's remarks as tone-deaf. Others claimed that she disregarded both Coco and the game. What should have been a fantastic final was instead turned into an uncomfortable reminder that not all celebrities are adept at accepting defeat. At that point, Stephen A. took things a step further. He began drawing comparisons between the situation and legendary athletes like Serena Williams, who never attempted to undermine her opponents while facing significantly harder circumstances, louder criticism, and larger stakes. Serena might be respected even if she lost. In contrast, Sabalenka seemed to be in need of an excuse to boost her self-esteem. The sarcasm entered the picture at that point. In essence, Stephen A. said that the weakest defense he had ever heard from a professional athlete was to blame the wind. He said, if the wind was really that big of an issue, maybe Sabalenka should have asked for a roof instead of a racket. Because it perfectly captured how supporters felt, the moment went viral. I'm sick of overpaid athletes acting as though they are the only ones affected by the laws of physics. Everybody experiences the same strain, bounce, and wind. Coco simply performed it more effectively. By now, Sabalenka's public relations staff probably wished she hadn't spoken. In a matter of hours, videos of her press appearance and Coco's composed and introspective interview were all over the place. It was almost funny how different they were. One sounded defensive and petulant, while the other sounded assured and grounded. Losing a match is one thing. Losing the respect of peers and admirers at the same time is quite different. A few players courteously responded that they understood emotions when reporters questioned them about it, but their tone was clear. Everyone has been there, but not everyone assigns responsibility when they lose, therefore nobody was standing up for her. Even tennis greats commented, stating that Coco had the maturity and concentration that characterize great champions. However, Sabalenka's response indicated that she still has a lot to learn. And that's exactly what Stephen A. was emphasizing. Not only did Sabalenka lose, but her defeat was severe. Not on the scoreboard, but in her post-match behavior. He explained that these kinds of instances shape how fans remember you. Scores are forgotten, but attitudes are remembered. Serena, Federer, and Nadal have left behind legacies via grace and failure in addition to victories. Conversely, Sabalenka appeared to be unable to cope with sharing the limelight. The ironic thing is that Sabalenka then attempted to defend herself in a different interview, claiming that she had said out of exasperation and didn't intend to minimize Coco's performance, but the harm had already been done. There's no turning back once the public thinks you sound salty. Coco, on the other hand, handled it flawlessly. She acknowledged that emotions run high, but she made it obvious that she deserved the victory. People fell even more in love with her because of her nuanced blend of quiet confidence and empathy. One thing became clear by the time the dust settled. Sabalenka's response appeared more worse due of Coco's maturity. Stephen A. summed up everyone's thoughts. Not only did Coco defeat Sabalenka on the court, she outperformed her in terms of poise, classroom behavior, and subsequent self-representation. Online, the response was outrageous. The idea that Aryna Sabalenka had gone too far brought together sports enthusiasts who often couldn't agree on anything. Some claimed that by downplaying Coco's performance and blaming the wind, she came across as a player who was unable to accept reality. Some even made the joke that since the wind seemed to beat her as well, it might now be ranked number 1. Her remarks were all over the place for days. Timelines were inundated with memes, tweets, and little videos. Additionally, Coco was receiving adulation from all quarters of the sports world while Sabalenka was being dragged. Everyone was impressed by her ability to maintain composure, never retaliate, and simply let her tennis speak. Because of this, Stephen A. Smith's perspective was much more persuasive. After observing the situation, he concluded that it was time for someone to publicly express what supporters had been saying on the internet. His argument went beyond this particular contest. It had to do with a pattern. People expect professionalism when athletes, particularly those at the highest level, lose. It sounds desperate to blame external variables like the wind or good fortune. It detracts from the game. It's even more difficult to justify such behavior when you're meant to be the greatest person on the planet. Although Sabalenka's response was passionate, it also revealed a deeper level of insecurity. In actuality, Coco Gauff is now a serious danger to her hegemony. I'm in major finals twice lately. She has been outplayed by Coco. It might have been luck once. Sabalenka is aware that twice is a sign. Stephen A., meanwhile, made it apparent that Coco stands for more than just another gifted athlete. She represents a new generation that is calm and self-assured. She doesn't use foul language. She simply prevails. Additionally, she makes adjustments rather than whining when things go wrong. Coco herself admitted that she wasn't even playing her best tennis, which is funny. She said that she thought she was playing horribly at one point in the game, but she managed to win in a different method. Champions do just that. Instead than waiting for ideal circumstances, they create them. Stephen A. used that to discuss attitude. Legends like Serena and Federer have all had poor days, he claimed, but they have never placed the blame on the ball, the audience, or the weather. They took responsibility for their actions, grew from them, and returned stronger. They became icons as a result. Coco is already on the same route because of this. Fans were applauding Stephen A. for speaking up as the video of his tirade went viral. It was more than just protecting Coco. It was about making athletes answerable when they pretend to be impervious to criticism. In actuality, titles are not the only source of excellence. It stems from the way you behave when things don't go your way. Eventually, Sabalenka made an attempt to rectify the situation by making a public statement. She said that her remarks were misinterpreted, that she didn't intend to offend anyone, and that her emotions overcame her. To be honest, this seemed like damage control. It was obvious to everybody that it was too little, too late. Even tennis insiders acknowledged that her remarks had caused needless controversy. The headlines focused on her attitude rather than how fantastic the match was. You've made a mistake when that occurs. The story should have been about Coco's performance, but Sabalenka's ego prevented it from happening. The entire event brought back memories for many. Stephen A. has criticized athletes for misbehaving. He consistently pursues the same goal, whether it be in football, basketball, or now tennis. Those who are incapable of taking responsibility. Additionally, his logic is straightforward. People look up to you while you're at the top. The bar is established by you. What message does it give to everyone watching if you complain when you lose? Because of this, the moment was more intense than normal. It was about sportsmanship, not just tennis. When compared to someone who has been on tour for years, 21-year-old Coco Gauff displayed greater maturity, which made Sabalenka's response appear even worse. That was also quickly brought up by fans. Many claimed that Coco was feisty, self-assured, and unconcerned, just like Serena in her early years. Others claimed that she is creating her own legacy, one that is founded on composure and discipline rather than controversy. Additionally, the timing couldn't have been better. Women's tennis was in dire need of a new international face at the time of Coco's victory. Someone who is humble but fearless, relatable but powerful. She quickly rose to prominence as the sports star. Sabalenka, on the other hand, appeared to be the opposite, a good example of what not to do following a defeat. Even her admirers found it difficult to explain her remarks. Some attempted to argue that she was simply emotional, but the general consensus remained unchanged. Stephen A. was correct to call her out for disrespecting Coco. Ironically, Coco didn't even appear to be affected. She discussed growing, learning, and maintaining focus in every interview that followed. She expressed her desire for her tennis to be the most important thing. And it did just that. Because of this, the tale didn't stop with the French Open. It turned into a pivotal moment. Every sport needs an athlete like Coco, according to Stephen A. When she first came to prominence as not just a fantastic player, but also as the new face of class in women's tennis. Someone who demonstrates that humility and confidence may coexist. He claimed that Coco's post-win response demonstrated greater leadership than Sabalenka's post-loss response. To be honest, that is the reality. Coco was exercising once more, anticipating the next tournament, while Sabalenka was occupied with justifying her remarks. That way of thinking reveals all about how they vary from one another. One is using justifications to gain respect. It is earned by the other through performance. Even sponsors began to take notice. Companies that collaborate with Coco emphasized her poise under duress. They are aware that controversy is not the foundation of her reputation. It is based on consistency, which is the key to success in sports marketing. In contrast, Sabalenka had to deal with uncomfortable headlines and awkward news conferences. To put it succinctly, one emerged as an inspiration, while the other appeared to be a bitter loser. Not to mention how the supporters responded to it. Videos on social media contrasted Sabalenka's defensive interview with Coco's composed one. In one, Sabalenka was seen frowning and discussing the wind, while Coco was shown laughing and thanking supporters. There was a huge difference. Coco appeared to be the tennis industry's future because to her victory speech, calm interviews, and ability to maintain composure. However, Sabalenka's remarks gave the impression that she was stuck in the past. What do you think, then? Did Sabalenka deserve all of Stephen A.'s criticism, or was it too harsh? To be honest, it might be time to reconsider who the true champion is if you lose and continue to blame the wind. I appreciate you watching. Remember to subscribe, like, and leave comments for more stories similar to this one.